Hi everybody, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, we've got some hot weather across the country. Inland areas are especially warm over the next couple of days. We're looking at highs in the mid-30s, which is well above normal even for New Zealand, although we do get it sometimes in summer, but to have it consistently day after day in some areas, that is the reason why it is getting so much attention. Here's how it looks on the animated wind map. Not a lot going on. You can see most of New Zealand is looking red, which means it is fairly warm today. Highs in the mid to late 20s and early to mid 30s. So it's quite a range. I would say about 26 to 36 degrees is the range of temperatures across New Zealand at the moment. High pressure dominates, and the reason why it is so warm, we've got this big high here, and it is really scooping up some warm weather. So as you look at the afternoon temperatures around New Zealand for Tuesday, this is the departure from normal, which means, in other words, how much hotter than usual is it? And it's these darker shaded areas in the middle and down through the South Island, including Southland. Those are the areas that are over 8 degrees above normal, and even the large areas in red 4 to 8 degrees above normal. So that is much of the country. It is going to be very hot. Now this doesn't cover everything. Some of these parts of Waikato today will get into the 30s, the low 30s. In fact, Hamilton's got a high of about 32 degrees for Tuesday. Now for Wednesday, high pressure, well, it stays in charge, and we've still got this one out on the Tasman with the warm nor'westers behind it. So there's another surge of warm weather. We've had the warm air that's underneath this big high crossing over New Zealand. Then we get the back end of this system, and that encourages these subtropical northerlies or northwesterlies to come back in, which means there is more hot weather coming, but perhaps a little bit more traditional as we go through the week, in the sense that it might be more of a nor'wester, and it's going to affect more eastern areas than western areas. But we've got a warm Wednesday on the way and a fairly warm Thursday. Look at these windy nor'westers. So these are the ones that are going to push the temperatures up in eastern areas. Now again, your chance to get up into the 30s as we get the nor'westers pushing through. They might be more west to southwest in some areas, but overall the origins coming out of the subtropics and from around the Queensland, New South Wales area. So a very warm Thursday on the way. And on Friday, it's a fairly windy day on Friday. It's quite unsettled. We've got heavy rain on the west coast, blustery winds, maybe even gale force through Cook Strait, and then a much cooler change coming behind it all for the evening, and by the time we get into the weekend, it will start to work its way northwards. Much of the North Island dry on Friday, calm in the north, but blustery down in the lower portion, and that means eastern areas like Hawke's Bay will be pretty hot towards the end of the week. Maybe a little bit of a cool down on Tuesday for some coastal parts of Hawke's Bay today. It was a very hot day yesterday, well into the mid-30s, but today there's a bit more of a coastal breeze. Could still be very hot inland though. And by the time we get to Saturday, you've got a cooler setup around Hawke's Bay because the highs, well, they're dropping a little further south. This is the big change we're seeing as we go into February. So as the highs start to drop further south, it brings more summer-like weather into Southland and Otago, which has been a little bit all over the place lately. But it also encourages, as the anticyclonic winds come up, a cooler southeasterly for those eastern areas of the North Island as we go into the weekend. So it'll be several degrees cooler on Saturday, we think, based on this setup. And our final map is for Sunday. Now, don't get too alarmed. It's a little big and confusing for some of you. We'll start around New Zealand. There is a lot of high pressure still, but because the highs are dropping south, including the next one coming in behind it, that means a lot more settled weather for the lower South Island, and it also brings in the easterlies to the top of New Zealand. So we're going to be seeing more easterlies, and look at the tropics by the time we get to Sunday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 big lows all tracking around this area, and 4 or 5 of them are just to our north. So there's a fair bit of activity sparking up in the start of February, probably the second week of February, but around Waitangi Day we do expect a number of storms well north of New Zealand. We should still be under high pressure, but yeah, there's quite a bit of life going on now in the tropics north of us. So I think as we go in through the month of February, it'll be worth keeping an eye on. And if you want some rain, the easterlies might be a little more positive, but by the way, the next several days ahead, apart from that west coast rain on Friday, most places are looking drier than average. That is all from me. It's good to be back after the long weekend for Auckland anniversary. Our next update will be on Wednesday.